Welcome to the next episode of the podcast, The Gray Stage, the book written by Greg Fernandez Jr. This is episode number 20. We'll be covering chapter 10, the chapter called Closing the Case. If you're following along in the book, we're on page 84. It continues. On June 2nd, 2015, the AVPD received the firearms report. The results showed, Detective Bowen reported, that the fired bullets found in relation to this incident were all fired from the Springfield .40 caliber gun found in the living room. End quote.
Yeah. Now notice there that they don't say that these results show that David fired this gun either, right? They're very cryptic about these things. So it's subconsciously, people that already think that David is guilty, they're going to say, okay, well, it's fired from David's gun. It must have been fired from David. I mean, come on, we all know that's not really true. Like, there should have been a lot more here that said, well, the firearms report show David fired this gun, boom, case closed. That's it. And we're all gone. It's over. But that's not the case.
Correct. And then the following paragraph, too, it says on August 5th, 2015, bloody latent print tests on the alleged murder weapon were inconclusive. So now we get to the next level, also, where it doesn't back it up. Correct? Stephen,
right.
What's your take on this?
2 month span there. Go ahead, Steve.
I'm sorry, say that again.
You can go. Do you have any comments here on the fact that they received now the bloody latent prints that were done on the weapon don't tie to anybody either, and so now they don't have David firing the gun.
Yeah. The
gun.
The prints were non-conclusive.
But they do come from the Springfield.
Yeah, they got prints off the magazine and some bullets, I believe. But as far as the firearm goes, non-conclusive. You know what it means? That there was prints that probably smudged. And a lot of times when you're firing a weapon, even though you grab it when you shoot it, and it'll move in your hand. You know what I mean? So prints can be a little bit smudged.
And then they're saying now that the ammunition that was fired relating to this incident all came from the Springfield .40 caliber, that XD Springfield, found in the living room. And so what I think they're getting at here is there was conspiracy theories, one that still may be true or not, that a silencer was used. And they said right away that the ammunition showed no proof of a silencer, and there was no silencer on that weapon found on the floor. Now they're saying that all the ammunition came from this particular weapon with no silencer found there. So they're all fired from the same gun, essentially saying no outside parties came in to do this is what they're alluding to, right?
Sure.
No outside people. They're saying they did come from this gun.
One of the weird things here is when they say that all of these bullets were fired from this Springfield gun, that's not necessarily true, because if you look at the lack of proof for the bullet that they tied to David, there's really not a lot of proof that bullet came from this gun, because they prove their reasoning for saying that item 57 came from David's gun is based on item 31, which is a bullet fragment. It's very, very twisted. It's all very vague. It's just like this is all just meant for people who want to believe that David Crowley is guilty. They're not taking into consideration all of the people that have valid questions, that really want to know, what are you guys doing to prove David Crowley is guilty and the public is not in danger? And I think that's a big, big problem, because they really have not done a very good job at relating that to us, that there isn't a killer out there, So there's a lot of problems with these firearms reports, and people can go and check those out. You can go and read them now, and you can really say, okay, if they say that these results show that the fired bullets all came from this Springfield gun, does their report really say that? Or is it very, very vague, and is it, a little bit, do they leave that door open to the fact that maybe it wasn't just from David's gun? Or that they can't prove that all of these bullets came from David's gun? And I'm really just talking about item 57.
Yeah, I think from my point of view is that the bullet fragments found all came from a gun, a Springfield 40 caliber handgun. And I think they confirmed that. But what they need to do as far as the forensics is to make sure it came from that gun, because each and every gun fires their lands and grooves essentially give each gun their own fingerprint. So you can actually tie it back to which weapon of thousands of these that were made and produced. You can narrow down to actually which weapon, and then you can solve your case. That's what they're trying to get here. They're trying to say that all of it ties back to one, and it was there, therefore that it cannot have been performed by any outside party.
Right.
That's what they're getting at, correct? They're trying to...
Yeah. But they
only test one bullet
31.
From another one and tie it to another one, and they tie those two together and say that all six were from the same weapon. But they don't go out of their way to test all six, right?
Well, it's kind of weird when they only call item 31 a fragment. So all of the bullets are called spent rounds that hit people, that are tied to Kamel, that are tied to Rania. Those are called spent rounds. Even the one that they tied to David is called a quote-unquote spent round. The only time that they ever use a fragment is with item 31, which is not tied to anybody. It's not, it's not a bullet that was shot through anybody's head. So the only way that they tie item 57 to David's gun is through item 31. So it's just a very weird way for them to really tie it. Why not tie the other bullets? Why not tie the bullets that we know that were shot through Kamel's head, that were shot through Rania's head? They should have tied those bullets to the one that they claimed was shot through David's head.
Is it because those were in better condition, that didn't go through any humans? They're easy to tie back to? Stephen, this is more for you, but the other ones are all damaged and there's not much left of them. So therefore it's just easier to test. There's a bigger group to...
Yeah. Yeah, once they go through the barrel, they're going to pick up the lands and grooves, like you said. What it does from there, and what it strikes, leaves you with what you have left to match it up.
And item 31 is a small piece. It's very small. So how they were able to connect that to the bullet or to item 57 that blows my mind.
Right.
Now, item 57 was fired. I think we are all in agreement that shot was fired on January 19th after everything was done, and the gun was already in the police custody, right? So how could they tie David to doing all this if this bullet hole in the ceiling wasn't there? So I think that's where they're also getting caught up, needing to frame this story there, because how could it have been done that day? That was a separate crime scene, a separate case we're dealing with of things that happened on the 19th versus the bodies that were discovered on the 17th.
The only thing that I can say in regards to that was there was a second gun that David and Kamel had owned at one time. And I'm pretty sure that David was the one cleaning it, just like he was cleaning his gun. And they sold that off to a friend. I can't remember the actual name. But it was an exact same make and model.
Yes.
So, but, I mean, as we stated before, every gun has their own fingerprint, so... I don't know.
But they're going to be very close then as well.
Mm-hmm.
But not exact.
That's my assumption, but I'm not an expert.
Yep. Yeah, me neither, but my hypothesis would still be a separate firearm was used in the commission of all these killings that had nothing to do with the gun that was laying there at the scene on the carpeting. But the guns were exactly the same. Therefore, it appeared that David did it.
Similar, yeah.
That's just my opinion. And I think that was just laid there and perhaps never fired at all that day, the gun that was laying by his left hand. But yes, he did have, and him and his wife had an exact replica duplicate that would have his prints or, cleaning it and DNA and whatever else.
Well, you remember there was an unspent round on the ground, right?
Correct.
Right, and my theory months ago was that somebody was checking the chamber, and when they had, and there was one chamber, and he ejected it, because David is somebody that would have his guns probably one chambered. Okay, so whoever grabbed the gun, David would know his gun's chambered. Okay, so somebody else grabbed the gun. I still like the silencer theory, by the way, because somebody would have heard those shots.
Yep.
And because they had a second gun that was exactly the same as David's, I mean, they would have been able to use the same. Is it a clip or is it a magazine?
It's a magazine. Clips a rifle, usually magazine is a pistol, but sometimes you can either way.
But they would be able to use that magazine and put it in there, especially one that David had preloaded.
Sure.
For the shot on the 19th, you're getting at, right, Sophia?
Or even at the crime.
Hole in the ceiling on the 19th. Yep.
Correct.
That's where I think that they came back on the 19th and used that same weapon, so that everything then, when they did the forensics, would tie together. They all would be fired from the same gun. It's not the one that's laying there, and they had to. Police had to say it came from that gun on the ground because they're going to come off looking not too good in all this if it doesn't jive. And there's a killer on the loose, and there's multiple weapons used, and multiple crime scenes, and multiple people at the house. They would really come out of this with a black eye. So that's part of the cover-up phase of this is to make sure that weapon matches all of it. So that's the thing that they were looking for when this information came back from forensics, said that it tied. That's Detective Bowen was quick to push that out right away back to you, Greg, to say, yep, it ties back. Here's your answer. Case closed. Done deal.
That goes.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, Sophia. I'm sorry. Well, that goes back to the silencer. No neighbors. They would have heard all those shots. They come back and they shoot one shot up there with that gun. So it originally started with silencers, and then they placed the blame on David's weapon. Exactly. Yep. Because Dan, when Greg said that, they would have heard those shots. That's a lot of shots. That's what I think too.
5-6 shots, and I think so. The silencer was used with the same weapon, exact same model with the silencer. Same model, exactly. And they had to come back and do that with David's bullets to get his DNA on there, blame him, and then he's all of a sudden he's now the patsy, and his weapon is the patsy.
Right, exactly.
I think, and so they came back. That's why they had to get in there again on the 19th under the auspices of cleaning up and looking for things. But they're up in the attic. They're doing all this stuff, commotion. Neighbor calls 911. But they had to have that to tie it off because they did a sloppy job at the beginning.
Right. Yeah, it puts it right on the Three Stooges, doesn't it?
Yep.
Exactly.
And then you have where they told the family already that David was guilty and explained everything, all the facts, quote unquote, in the case back in March. Then they get the test results in June. How do you go back and tell a family, ooh, we really royally screwed this up?
They never do. That's why they never do it. That's why we're here. That's what it is. Really, they never do it.
If I could high five you right now.
So then continuing on, it says, after the Dakota County Electronic Crime Task Force reviewed all electronic items in their possession, Detective Brian Bowen reported on October 7th, 2015, quote, Detective Klokonos and the DCECTF did not find any information on the related devices that showed motive or cause for what happened during or up to this incident, end quote. Then it goes on to say, with the conclusion of the review of the digital devices, there is no other information available for further investigation. Throughout this investigation, the AVPD has not discovered any information or evidence that shows anybody but David Crowley is the perpetrator of these crimes, including killing his wife, child, and himself. Status exceptionally cleared.
I'd actually put that part, the paragraph above that, after the Dakota County Electronics Crime Task Force, I put that in the group today because that goes to show they had no motive and they had no proof that David did this. They had nothing.
And they put that in writing. It's out there in writing on their final report saying there was no motive for this after reviewing everything in the house. Anything electronic, no evidence supported anything. Now, they also have the Dropbox files now. They've also gone through the tablets, the cell phones, the laptops, the Surface Pro. Nothing shows any kind of motive for any of this. And they put that in the report. Well, that should be enough right there to, not only reopen the case, but just to say that it's still, unsolved, undetermined. They don't know. Remember, in a court of law, if this was a court case, there's no way that David would be convicted if he was still alive and this thing went to trial. There's way too much reasonable doubt in all facets of this entire thing. But they're trying to close it off by saying he did it all. No one else could have done it, therefore he did it.
Correct.
Now, the last paragraph here, for those who don't understand what exceptionally cleared is, and I'm one of those at the time, Greg went ahead and contacted the Apple Valley Police Department to find out what exceptionally cleared meant and got the following response. It says, exceptionally cleared indicates the case is satisfactorily concluded and prosecution of a suspect or suspects is not being sought. These cases may have been referred to another agency for follow-up. Victim may have withdrawn the complaint, parents to handle discipline, or a verbal warning issued in minor offenses. Those are the types of things where you see cases like this. Greg writes back and says, thank you. Would this also include if the suspect is deceased? The answer is likely yes. So there puts the bow on the entire case. We're done. No one else could have done it except David. Even if we have no evidence that he did it, we're going to pin the blame on him, close down the case, and shut her down. Greg, is that how you took it when you got the response back that exceptionally clear? There's nothing more they can do on it. They've exhausted all avenues, and it's a done deal, is essentially what we're saying. There's nothing more we can do. There's no other ways to look at it. There's no other avenues to look to see who else did it. Therefore, he did it.
Yeah. I mean, in the same report, Bone is saying that, we didn't find anything, we didn't find any motive, et cetera, but we also didn't find anything that shows anybody but David did it. But wait a minute. Okay, so if you didn't find a motive that David did it, you obviously didn't find a motive that anybody else did it because you didn't look for it. What did you find that shows that David did this? So this status really for like a couple months, I was kind of tripping out on it. Like, what is the status? Why isn't this closed? Status should be case closed, or something. But exceptionally cleared, once again, it's like they're just hoping that people won't look into these things, that they will just say, well, you know what, I wanted to believe David Crowley guilty. They're saying that they couldn't find anything that shows anybody else but David did this, so that's it. So I'm just going to go with that. It's really meant for weak-minded people. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, Greg. So the case is officially still open under the other guys. It's not closed yet, right? Still.
Well, I mean, that's what I would think, right? If it's not closed.
I mean, remember too, a closed case can get reopened. If they're saying this is exceptionally, what was the term you said?
Exceptionally
cleared.
Cleared, yeah. I mean, you know what? Maybe they're leaving a little bit of an open end in case something does happen that they may have to cover up. They may have to reopen as soon as somebody does something with the case again. It's going to get eyes on it and activity. To maybe they have to do to shut something down, and they'll use that. And if it's closed, and all of a sudden they open it up to protect one of the knuckleheads or something, it looks bad. If they keep it kind of in limbo, they can still make some moves around this thing, and nobody's going to ask questions because they said, "Oh, we closed it." They don't look like jerks, so that's probably one of the reasons it's like that.
That's an excellent point. That kind of does make me think that they are leaving. They're leaving it open for us.
Exactly, because look, Marshall case is closed. Boom.
Yeah.
They closed that up right away. Yeah. Yeah. See, I mean, it's kind of the same thing, you know.
Yeah, it's just a weird term where it's just like, you know, it's not really clear what that meant, so we had to figure out what that meant. But, you know, are they worried about getting sued?
No, you were very smart to ask the definition and understanding of that term. I've never heard that term myself.
Really? Interesting.
No, I haven't. No.
Yeah, because I really think that term should never be used. I mean, their reason. I'm glad that they were very transparent when I asked them questions. For me personally, you know, they answer all of my questions. Whether I like the answers or whether they're vague with the answers, that's a whole other thing. But pretty much every question that I've ever answered them, they've answered. They've taken time to actually answer it. So this one is no different. Yeah.
I've got Greg, I got to jump off here in 10 minutes, but I do have one question, and it is, let's see, I just drew a blank. The question was, it's a question for Stephen. Now, in any case like this, you're going to need three things: means, motive, and opportunity for a crime. Those three things, like in a jury court of law, to put the blame on a defendant. You need to be able to prove means, motive, and opportunity. So with here, they've got means and opportunity. With David, he's always around guns. He has access to guns. Certainly he could have pulled all this off. But they never found the motive. They never were able to prove and even find a motive. So is that why that they can't really put a close this case officially? Because they don't have it, so now they got to find it. Let's put it as exceptionally cleared, that we don't have that motive, but it kind of looks like David. Therefore, now we're done. Is that something to do with why they ruled it this way?
Yeah, no, you're right, Dan. This is a fine line right here. You know, like I said, they close it, and you still get it reopened. But right now they're leaving it open and it's for their agenda. They're controlling this thing, so they're leaving some loose ends in case something happens. You're exactly right. I think that I expect a second chapter on this, and you know, depending what we do and such, is that everybody's on board. It's a small police department. Everybody's on board. You know what I mean? From the patrolman up, they know what's going on. And you know, my thing to Greg was how relaxed when he was asking questions were they to answer these things. They feel really relaxed. I think that plus it just, you know what, they can keep information. When they close a case, there's certain information they can't get until they reopen it.
Stephen, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Is it possible that he could have been a CI, and that's the reason why certain things is not being mentioned?
Talking about David?
Yes. Or even Camille.
Oh, you know what? Sure. When I had my country club, my partner was a GS-16 with a company involved in the Phoenix Project, and they were actually grooming him back in like '69 or '70 for Bill Casey's job with the CIA. This guy was way up there, and his partner every once in a while showed up at the country club twice a year in a Range Rover. He was a Swedish operative married to an Israeli colonel, female. Okay, so absolutely, I saw that 30 years ago in my country club, and the guy was a great guy, but he's married to an Israeli colonel. He's Swedish. He was an operative with the CIA. True story. So yes, David's military experience, and you know what? He's a smart guy. His project, you know, I mean, look at what Hoover did from John Lennon to everybody else he spied on. I mean, really, you know, I mean, FBI doesn't want that. I mean, this is an internal case for the United States. This is, you know, the CIA, but the CIA is involved. Yeah, sure, absolutely, because David was overseas. There's things maybe he saw. He's an artist now. You know, not that many guys come out of the military and start producing movies against kind of what, you know, you fought for. You know what I mean? Hey, that doesn't rub too well. You know, so you know, he's a martyr. You know, that's basically it. And yes, definitely has something to do with this. And they hired lower people to make it a sloppy looking thing. And you know, and I looked at this the other day. I watched a thing on Manson the other day from a reporter that got into him. And then they went into LaBianca and Sharon Tate and everything, and how gruesome it was, and Helter Skelter, pig on blood on the walls. And I immediately flashed to David on this. You know what? Those people, you look at their background, I mean, they came from hell. They were all raped and child and no fathers and drugs. David was not even close to that. And he's going to do the same thing they did in the Manson house and brutally kill his family and write on the wall with their blood. You know, this is where the FBI, I mean, we're not profilers, but we know enough. But you know what? This profile doesn't fit the crime, okay? It does not. I don't care what anybody says it. If people would look at this and just say, oh, this doesn't happen anywhere. You know, Marshall case, they tried, you know, 1 shot, 3 shots, 3 kills, 6, 8 shots, bullets everywhere, blood, hands. They pour those poor people, savage. This is not how it goes. This is totally outside that family's agenda. There's no way that, you know, and that's the bottom line. If I was a cop and showed up on this crime scene, I'm sorry, man. I'm calling everybody in on this. This is too big. You know. I mean,
yeah, but how do you put, you know, how far can you get before they shut you down? Because the cops that showed up, the cops that I feel really entered that house, did their job. They reported what they saw, et cetera, et cetera. They weren't saying, hey, you know, hey, this guy, you know, he killed his family or whatever.
Right.
Then you had there's like levels to this whole thing here, and
exactly.
I know we're gonna get to the whole Tom Lydon stuff here, but that's where it really gets crazy. Where it's like, okay, now you have the chief, you have the police captain, the police chief. They're giving answers on stuff they weren't there. They're not talking about any of this stuff here. Go ahead.
Greg, I'm telling you, man, when I was a cop in Burlingame, not Foster City as much, because I was a little older and I was a reserve sergeant and an officer, so I had a little bit of juice. But in Burlingame, when I was a rookie, I didn't know. They didn't told us. I'd get called out after 8 in the morning going in on patrol to go cover this block, where they ended up arresting an ex-cop on a Millbrae, the Sully case, and it ends up being the one where they put the people in the barrels and lime in Golden Gate Park in San Francisco. Okay, and I was a patrolman, and there was only, it looked like the FBI convention, and I'm just sitting there directing traffic, and I knew nothing was going on at that level. Nothing, Greg. Okay, period. Nothing. I swear to God. Yeah, until you become a patrol sergeant, it's a need-to-know basis. Yeah, and I saw that early on, and I didn't care, and they don't care. So at the ground level, the guys came in, they saw this. You know what? You got to give them a mulligan. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Right now. Anybody above, sergeants and above, no mulligans. Yeah.
I think
it's true.
Well, that's fair.
It's fair. That's a fair deal. You know, that's fair. You know, if you needed to know, you'd have bars. Yeah. If you need to know, you'd have bars on your shoulders. Okay. I mean, so that's how it works.
Okay.
Really.
That's a very fair way to put it.
It is. It's paramilitary. You know.
Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Well,
go ahead, Sophia.
One of the reasons why I was asking if he could have been a CI is because we have, it's literally coming out right now in the news about the FBI and other agencies infiltrating, like We Are Change and other movements, especially conservative movements, going on, like in Minnesota and everything. And
I just lost you guys. Yeah, no, he could have. He definitely. I just lost you. Just to catch up. Yeah, he could have been a CI. I mean, like I have it out on the internet that I was opened up by the FBI and California DOJ, B&E, because I finally had to put it out there when I had stuff going on after the book. And I said, I'm going to put it out there. Yeah, I was opened up by the FBI out of San Antonio, Texas. And they hired me to go after white supremacist groups and child porn. And that's what so that was my job. And so I did that kind of like sneaking around, But I was a bail bondsman, ex-cop. I mean, I bailed these guys out. I got a lot of information. But it didn't last more than about 6 months. It was kind of bullshit. But I'll tell you what, when they admonish you, they throw you out there. If anything happens, anything else, we don't know you. It's sort of guy is like that. If you commit a crime, we have nothing to do with you, everything. So, but, that's the whole thing. I was doing it more for, God and country more than anything else, so.
And I'm just wondering if this is the reason why we're only getting certain forms and we're not getting everything that our FOIAs are asking for. I mean, personally, I'm not asking for photos of Rania or anything like that. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for certain things that were mentioned in the report, and I'm getting flat out denied. And it's like, wait a minute, I'm FOIAing this. I'm asking for it. I'm not trying to put personal. Okay, we have received like Equifax information. We have received bank account information, but supposedly this other stuff is like so sensitive that they can't give it to us.
Well, no, Diane, you've answered your question. The stuff that's sensitive is controlled by the government. Those other ones are independent companies. Okay, Transnet, TransUnion, Equifax, all that. You know what? I mean, anybody can get that. I mean, that's what. But listen, here's one thing: they know who all of us are probably by now. Number two is that you got to expect that. I mean, just talk to John McAfee; he's dead. I saw the last interview on him. They know everything we are doing. It's beautiful. So why hide it? Secondly, is that he had the talent. He had probably everything going for him. Yeah, he was probably opened up and being married to a Kamel. And you know what? I don't know her family's past and stuff, but sure, he didn't marry Ellie Mae Clampett from Louisiana. He married a gal who has a culture, and the Middle Eastern and who knows whatever. I don't know, he could definitely be a confidential informant, and he would do it too.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, maybe you could kind of clarify what the CI is, so for people that don't know, have never heard that term.
Oh, okay, yes. Yeah, Greg. Okay, confidential informant is a nice way to say it's not a snitch, okay? And
that's what I would think is a snitch, right? Okay.
Well, no, you know what? I have friends of mine I kidded around, but my wife didn't even know I was doing it at the time, because you know why? It was really cool not to tell anybody. It was kind of like, man, it's like secret stuff, because they asked you to do it. And that wasn't because I got arrested with 10 pounds of cocaine in, Florida and I rolled over. This is because I had a business that had a lot of street contacts. So I said yes. And it wasn't about the money, but if you do a couple cool things, it's $400 or $500 here and there. I'll be honest with you, when the FBI opened me up, and I got opened up, it was interesting because it was a guy I knew. He left the military as a captain, and he was 36 the limit, and he says, I'll go to the FBI, and he did. So he called me later on, a couple of years into it, and he was still doing backgrounds. And he hated it, because he was so good at it. They leave you there, but he needed somebody to open up, and he said, hey, okay. I said, okay. So they gave me an agenda, and they admonished me on the phone, and after, like I'm raising my right hand on the phone, okay, fine. And I didn't do much with them. But with the DOJ and B&E, that's California Department of Justice Bureau of Narcotics Enforcement, I worked a couple of pretty big meth, but they were actually federal 2 cases, big cases, pounds of meth. And I worked that, and that was fruitful for a little bit. And then I just didn't do it. It just, I got other things to do. But that's an informant, and some of these guys make $250,000 a year with the bureau. CIA, or whatever. I mean, yeah. The CIA doesn't really, those guys, it's a whole different ballgame. I don't know much about their informants or anything, But as far as on national levels, the FBI, they open people up, and it's not a bad gig if you want to do it. And it's basically, You know, maybe it's almost like feels like a duty or something. And you know, it's FBI corruption, all that stuff. Even though the FBI agents at the lower levels, they really don't know what's going on with what we hear on all these platforms and all this, yellow journalism. You know.
Well,
so,
I mean,
you know, most of the guys are pretty good guys.
But when they come to you, do they come to you like this is like a constitutional duty type thing, or like how do they?
No, not with me. It was like, hey, I got this deal. You want to do it? I go, yeah, because I knew the guy, you know. And then the same thing with the Department of Justice. The guy that opened me up, I'd known for 20-some years. He's a former cop. He worked DEA. He was down there with the Noriega thing, speaks Spanish, and he was a bureau chief out of San Francisco for the DOJ. And he says, hey, you know, you want to take, blah blah blah. And I said, yeah, but you know what? It was for stuff that was, you know, it wasn't like go snitch on the guy next door. I mean, those were big cases, and there were cases I believe, you know, should be taken care of, like, you know, 50 pounds of meth and stuff. But you know, that was short-lived too. But yeah, no, they don't. But I'll tell you what, though, if you screw up, Greg, they hang you out there. That's the only thing I'll say about all these movies and stuff. So if you get arrested or something, they don't know you, and you know that's why. You know, that talking to you guys, they know, if they know I'm talking to you, I got a file with them. If they pull me up in the FBI, they got my name. And you know what? And I'm happy they do. And that's why I think I've been untouchable a little bit, because I've been pretty fair with stuff. You know, I've never called these organizations out on anything. I've tried to help them with the Yosemite case. You know, this is an FBI case because of, you know why? Because of the profile, David. You bring an FBI profile in this thing, they're just going to say, no way. And I think that's something we also look at, you know, because they're the experts.
Yeah.
I think that could be something that's really...
That's pretty, I mean, because that's why, you know, when you have two quote-unquote friends of David who are saying that the FBI was involved, we asked the Apple Valley police that say that they weren't.
They weren't, no, they weren't.
But technically, the AVPD did contact the FBI, Travis Yarborough, to get David's fingerprint. So that was a little interesting. Why not contact the military to get David's fingerprint? Why contact the FBI?
You know, that's a good question. Well, I can tell you this, is at Apple Valley, I mean, the military would probably not respond to Apple Valley. They only respond to other higher governments. I would think that might be the shot there.
So do you think that would the military respond to the feds before responding to Apple Valley?
Yeah.
Okay.
They respond to the feds back up Valley, but then you got to look at, like you're looking at it, is I'm only 50-50 on this because I've never done it.
Sure.
But why they go to the FBI means is that they knew something, that he's been opened up. You know, if he was a CIA, if he was a confidential informant, the CIA thing with the company does lead because of Comel, but he could have been opened up with the FBI, and that could have been also. You know, and those guys saying that, oh yeah, Apple Valley contact the FBI means that maybe part of what they're saying is maybe it's David. You know, but I don't think David would. You know, he wouldn't brag about that. You know, I mean, I didn't tell. They tell you you can't tell anybody. They tell you that too, but when they open you up, the FBI did that. Other guys didn't. They knew my wife. They didn't care. But FBI, yeah, you don't tell anybody. So, yeah, and that's true. And I think he could. He definitely was a confidential informant. So a confidential informant, Greg, is for the good thing. You know, and that's why he probably was, and I don't doubt it.
Right.
When you apply for a gun license and everything, do you have to give your fingerprints?
I think you got to give your thumbprint. I'm not sure. It's been a long time for me. Got to give a thumbprint on the form. I know that. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. I was just wondering because they went to the military for his fingerprints, and I was like, well, why not just go through the ATF or just to get it?
You know, here's the other thing is that I'm seeing a lot of forensics. This case, there's a lot of forensics up front, but there's a lot of things I'm looking at now. Finding out was FBI, military, this, that. You know, was this more to find out who he was to maybe try to erase his identities? because he's definitely something's here. I believe it is. It was a hit, and it came through the top to a bunch of knucklehead clowns that did it, and we know that. And that now they're going into, we want Prince here. You know, if I got killed, murdered, I don't think that the cops in San Diego are going to go out and say, hey, we need FBI fingerprints on this guy. You know what? I don't know. Now for the crime scene, yeah, if they pulled a bunch of different prints, you know what? But you know what? They didn't bring the FBI in there, so now but they're using for other stuff maybe. But they're concerned of David's identifications through other government agencies, and he was just a military guy. He wasn't like a lieutenant colonel, but he was. So there's more to it than his military status. He was definitely involved more than that.
You know, I'm actually starting to believe that because
of
the different types of attacks that we received, and just for asking questions and being involved in the case.
Here's a question then. Is it easier to frame a CI than it would be to frame somebody who wasn't a CI?
Should it frame him?
Yeah, is it easier to frame him, to kill him, because he is a CI? Or is that not even relevant?
Oh, it's not relevant because, you know, at first, like I said, you don't tell anybody, so if you do disappear, they know what you're doing anyway. And if you're in, there is that risk, and you know what, you're going to pick up knowledge or something. It's definitely something not everybody wants to do. It's not like a movie. You just kind of roam around and just listen. You don't even ask questions. I mean, you know, as soon as you open your mouth, you've incriminated yourself, and somebody doesn't like what you're saying, it could be a bullet in your head. So you just listen, and, you know, you just do that, you know, and so if you get, they could make you disappear either way. Probably easier if you are a CI, Greg, because they could say, hey, meet us here for some money, and they dump you in the bay. So it's actually easier if you're already in.
Yeah.
I never thought about it. You know, that was a really good question.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Oh, sorry. What were you saying about Marshall?
Oh, yeah, because with Marshall, you know, that was one of the things I was like, well, okay, there's a local Masonic lodge right there in Murphy's. These guys have to know. Those guys have to know. Whether I'm not saying they're involved in Philip Marshall's death or anything, but they have to know what the heck is going on there. So, you know, would that be so? Then it goes back to the connection between a confidential informant and the Masons. All of that stuff there too. We know that we know David had surrounded himself with Masons. Whether he knew it or whether he didn't, that's a whole other question. But they were definitely there. It's just Philip Marshall and David Crowley at some point they had to have realized that they had surrounded themselves with a controlled environment with people, whether they trusted or whether they didn't, but they were connected to people that were involved in a lot of the Masonic stuff, the CIA, the counterintelligence, etc.
Oh, you know what, Greg? You know that's what we are trying to preach as a loose term. Like we spoke about Greg Ford. You know, I mean, he's a former, guy and everything else, and he was, I never met him. He's about 4 miles from where I lived, and he came up with the same things, and we both lived in that county on and off for almost 30 years, and I've been through 6 sheriffs, and I've seen the corruption and the Mariposa and everything connected in the whole motherload, and Marshall's up there, and Philip Haney, and Amador, and, so you get a vibe on that, and you also, what it is, Greg, even though you're not political, you're hanging out with people, you hear things, and this and that, and it's exactly kind of the same thing. There's a vibe on that, and the thing is that what bothers me is, with the Crowley case is that, this little girl's killed, and there was nothing to show anything happened in that neighborhood, and it was like Stepford wives, but like in Murphy's, like you said, boy, it was like everything. It was like a sad 4th of July. I hate to say that, and wow, what's the difference? You know what I mean? And the difference is that one was a surgical hit, Murphy's, the other one was a sloppy. We're going to use these egotistical punks to do our dirty work because we know, and you know what? And they did, and it was egos, and you know, these guys, you know, it's so surreal that it's at that level to me even still.
Right. Well, yeah,
you know?
They're the perfect scapegoats, and then everybody just thinks that, it was just a bunch of people, you know, that knew David that killed him. When, I mean, even if some of that is partially true, I still think there's like multiple levels to this David Crowley case.
There is.
So
there is. You know what? If I was looking at this case, if I could be in Apple Valley and going back to when maybe the first day he moved there and be in his head when this happened, just to see how things kind of who was starting to hang around at one time 6 years ago, or what was there something different? You know, did a DM come back with a whole new attitude, and you know, like somebody just pulled him in a van and they told him what he's going to do? You know, I mean, I see all these scenarios for this guy, and that, you know, he's trusting these guys and everything else, and there might be it's more than a jealousy thing because these guys weren't going to get their part of the film. It's much more than that. It wasn't like, we're pissed off, we're killing the family. That's not it. It came from above, you know. And yeah, he was probably a CI or something. They got files on him, you know. And so you know what? You got to pick your target. You know, when we'll talk about it on the air, but you got to pick your target. You know, what's your motive now? How do we prove? Who's going to tell us what happened? Who's going to testify to what happened? That's what you need. Something like that. Circumstantial evidence isn't going to cut it. You know.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like that's all they really have on David. Even if I don't even know if what they have would even qualify as circumstantial evidence.
It really doesn't. You know. You know what? I don't understand. I don't understand why it wouldn't have been a surgical hit like Marshall's, and it would be in and out, clothes clean, nothing going on. Do you know what I mean? And so that you know what that tells me, Greg? I might be reaching. Is that he was connected? Because if it was surgical, it would be too good. It would be too good. Marshall was surgical, but they don't quite connect him because he's kind of a radical author. Well, you know, this was surgical. Different agendas, George Bush, and here is now in the woke, and he's writing about it like a little prophet 5 years ago. So if it was surgical, it'd be maybe easier to point to. I doubt this happened. He was connected. He was a CIA. The CIA. It was a shadow hit. We know it now. We know it. Being a sloppy crime scene. And him being, you know, a maniac nut, it doesn't even come close to that either. So they missed the bar in this one. Because either way, it's suspicious, and that's why I think they made it sloppy, Greg. Is because he was inside somewhere. I really do. And you know what? Enough people may have knew about it. They might have pointed that way, and it might have been a connection inside at a very low level, like those guys. And so they had to really make it messy, so nobody would even think it was like that. Because that is not how it works usually, you know.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like the Manson thing to me. I mean, God, review those Manson tapes. It's, you know, and there's some stuff coming out. The Manson thing was also CIA, believe it or not. I don't know about that, but you know.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, there's seems too much there, and the way that the guy is, and he's still there, and he's like heavily guarded, even though he's in prison. I mean, there's a lot of weird.
He's dead now. He died about a year ago. You know
did he die? Oh, okay, I didn't.
Yeah, he died about a year ago. Yeah. But
I had a family member who was at the same prison as him at some point. Yeah, and he made some comment, and Manson just totally flipped out. Was like, "Who is that guy? Who is that guy?" And it's just like, I don't know. It just seemed like he was more. I don't know. I don't know if I want to say he was not that
safe,
crazy.
Man. he was Satan, man. You know what? When I talked to a guard who worked at DVI when he was there.
Yeah.
And he said, he said he looked in this guy's eyes. He said, "You fucking see the devil, man." He said, he swears to God. Everybody was freaked. You don't even look in this guy's eyes. I mean, he was Satan. I'm telling you right now. This guy was. That's how they said. And I believe him. You know.
Yeah.
Fuck. You know.
Could be.
I don't know, Greg. You know. I mean, what if you guys? How far up the top does this go? You know. I mean, it's. You know, what was the motive? What's the motive of this? What's the motive to get rid of David? Really? I mean, is it just a film to get rid of David? I mean, that's it.
No, I don't think so. I think it has a lot. I think it has a lot to do with everything we've seen from 2016 on.
You think he knew some things he shouldn't have known?
Yeah, I think so. I think, yeah.
Wait, when did he get out of the military? What year?
2009.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, you know, this is, I mean, close. I just watched Bet David with a former lieutenant colonel who just got out. Young guy, good-looking guy. Fuck, that can't be like 30 years old. Lieutenant colonel, like, wow. So he's talking about the woke culture and how all of a sudden it's hit the military. You know, and the people, it's coming down from command, and you do this and that, and LGBT's fine, all this bullshit, and all that woke stuff.
Right.
So, you know, and I really heard of it, and I believe this guy 100%. So David, you know, he could have been a poster child for some of that back then, guys. You know, good-looking guy in shape, you know, blah, 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 hard charger, got a couple ears hanging, you know, and they go ahead and they take him. I mean, he's combat ready, and, you know, smart, artistic. I think more artistic, too. Hey, look what they did with, I knew they got Mendez over there with Ben Affleck with the CIA, okay?
Mm-hmm.
He went over there. They went over there as a movie set. They're going to produce a movie, you know? And they infiltrated that and all that stuff like that, and under disguise and all sorts of stuff. But, you know, that's the kind of guy he was. I mean, he's got talent. They look at talent. They don't look at just some, you know, a killer, you know? They look at talent. And so he had that. Maybe they saw something in that, you know? And then he was saying things there he shouldn't have. It's pretty broad, and I haven't seen the whole thing, though. I don't know. I gotta pull it down, but I see all the trailers, you know? It's pretty well done.
Yeah. All right, Peace. Well, we'll kind of wrap this one up here.
Yeah, go ahead, Greg.
Yeah. We'll definitely be in contact about more stuff. And you know, I'm always saying a prayer for you. Everything that you're doing, make sure that, you know, God is watching you, and God is watching over everything that you're doing, man.
Oh, thanks, brother, man.
You're doing some really good stuff there.
Oh, I'm trying. You know, hey, you saw Paul Orndorff died, huh?
Yeah, I was really sad about that, but I know he's been struggling with that for a couple of years now. Because I've seen some podcasts, some videos of him back in 2018, 2019. Yeah, you could tell like he lost a lot of weight, and he was.
Oh,
but,
sure,
but
yeah.
But he had, you know, he was just he was more humble, you know, just, you know, talking more about God and talking more about just stuff that when you think of Paul Orndorff, that whole villain, you know, you don't think of
that. Oh my
that.
God, you know what?
Wow.
You know, he and I spent some time together. I'm not saying, you know, 3 weeks, but we spent an hour here and there together in my office. But we sit there and talk, you know, and the guy's one of the nicest guys you'd ever meet. I swear to God, just the coolest, you know, a little bit intense, but not really, you know. And I saw a picture of Ricky Steamboat the other day. I know I'm getting old, man, but man, he's getting up there too, man. But those were good times. We talked about that, yeah. Figured out. But, yeah, it's kind of still working on that video, man. This case is crazy, but I just need to, you know, I got the time to do it. I'm kind of getting lazy sometimes these days, so. Anyway.
Now you gotta stay focused on all that.
Oh no, I'm focused, but it's like it's like I need that break for a day from a case. But anyway, good talking with you guys. All right, be safe, man.
All right, brother. All right.
See you, brother. Thanks. Bye.
All right, Sophia. I'm gonna head off here. Hope you're doing well too.
I just have the house to myself right now. So I'm just gonna kick back on the couch.